Hello everyone, I am so happy to see you. According to YouTube analytics, over 70% of you guys are not subscribed to the channel. If you guys want Pugsley to eat this month, I suggest you do so. Enjoy the video guys, I'll love you guys forever and always. Hello everyone, welcome to the long-awaited end of Season 12 Gnar guide. I will be going over Gnar's items, runes, abilities, combos, and very simple macro for Gnar. Let's get straight into it. So first, we'll be going over items. I'm just going to try to go over everything quickly. I think Doran's Blade and Doran's Shield are the best starting items for Gnar. D-Blade's best into matchups where you can put pressure. D-Shield is best for matchups where you get poked. And I just put potions here because why not? And control wards are essential, so be sure you buy them every other time you back is good, I guess. Or just whenever you can afford one and you have inventory space. Essential and core items. So last time I did a guide, I had Sterak's Gauge on here, but I do not think it's as essential anymore. However, I do think Trinity Forces. It's just the best mythic item on Gnar because of all the stats. And then Cleaver is also very, very good, especially since the durability patch. Every single champion has more armor, so it's just always good to have Cleaver if you do not need another item. And it's also a very good substitution for Divine, which got nerfed several times. So if you need armor reduction, Cleaver is perfect. And I put boots here because boots are pretty essential on Gnar to build early, just to help you kite and do things on mini Gnar. And I love to build Cole on my first or second back. It just feels good whenever you get the 100 CS and you get the extra gold so you can build your first, second items faster. And again, control wards, please buy these. Next is armor. Of course, plated steel caps. You would build this into most AD matchups, probably first or after your mythic item. Randuin's Omen is by far, in my opinion, the best armor item on Gnar. Good into most AD teams, especially if they crit, and the slow on it is just too good. Deadman's is also very good on Gnar. Very good into mobile champions. There's a lot of them these days. Thornmail got a pretty big nerf. However, it's still very good whenever you need that healing reduction. And I think Death's Dance is an okay item. I think you need to be ahead though to build it. Magic Resist. Of course, Mercury Treads are here whenever you need that tenacity. Wits In is a very good item, and it feels very good when you're ahead. If you're not ahead though, Force of Nature is a great option. It just gives you the tanky stats that you would need against ability power. Spirit Visage I like to build whenever I have enchanters on my team or whenever there's Ocean Soul. So just build that if you wish. Force of Nature is still just as good if you don't feel like building Spirit Visage. And lastly, Abyssal Mask. I should have probably put this under situational, but if you have an AP carry on your team and the enemy team has a lot of AP, build this. Now we are down to situational / 6 item. Divine used to be core, but since it got nerfed a lot, I don't like to think of it as core anymore. I like to think that it's a good item against mini tanks on the enemy team, like maybe at least 3 tanks or bruisers that build a lot of resistances. It's also good for split push or one-on-one. Okay, sorry, I got kicked for being AFK. I need to move around a little bit more. Anyways, Divine, yeah, just build this into tanks whenever Trinity will not do enough for you to shred through tanks. Frostfire is a good team fighting item. Mr. Popper used to build this. His reasoning behind building it was being tanky and still being able to one-shot squishy targets. But with the durability patch, it's kind of hard, but it still has its purpose. I also think Frostfire and Sunfire combined with Bork is still really good. You won't be able to go it as much in the new season, I think, with the new item changes, so you can try to abuse it before it gets removed in preseason. And basically Sunfire, I like this item whenever there's a lot of CC on the enemy team, and you can combine on-hit items like Bork, Witsen, etc. Sterak's Gauge is a good later item now, I feel like. It used to be good to build second or third, which you can still do. I just think there's better items right now. But if there's burst on the enemy team and you just need an item, just build this, I guess. Same with Gargoyle. It's just a better late game item. If you need both armor and MR, this is just a good late game team fight item. Zonya's Hourglass I definitely don't think is as good as GA, but if the entire enemy team is AD and you need like more utility, maybe just to dodge and ult, this is probably good to get, but in most circumstances, you should build GA for the late game team fights. The revive is pretty good and it can really help you save games and maybe even win games if you go in and die but then come back to life and you're able to do things. Warmogs I think is good combined with Frostfire or Sunfire. It's just good in team fights, but I rarely build it. Maw is a decent MR item when you're ahead, but I still prefer Sterax or even Wit's End over it. But if you feel like building it, go ahead. It's good into high ability power teams. Silvermere, I mainly just build QSS from this. You probably shouldn't build the full item, but if you're late game, you might as well, I guess. Anathemas is good whenever there's a carry on the enemy team. Some champs I like to think about, maybe any ADC that's ahead, Samira, really just anyone that's ahead and you need to CC them and take less damage from. Swifties are good into matchups, mainly like Nasus, that especially since he just got this big massive wither buff. Swifties will just help you kite him properly. Just champs that slow you. Hullbreaker is an excellent split pushing item. However, it did get nerfed earlier in the season, but it's still really good whenever you need to match the split push or you just feel like split pushing is better for that specific game in general. I do think it's better whenever you're ahead though to build this, but it's up to you and it's honestly just preference if you feel like rushing this item every game, because you could, but it's definitely not as good as it used to be before. Lastly, Kimpunk. This item is actually very, very good, but I just find it difficult to sometimes build. I just think Thornmail is just better because you get armor and you don't really get any resistances from this, but it's still a good Grievous Wounds item when you're ahead, I believe. Snowball. Like I said, Bork is a very, very good item when you're ahead, especially combined with Frostfire or Sunfire. It's also very good against tanks. Nasus is a good example, I believe, just so you can take his movement speed away. Runons is very, very good in certain situations. Obviously when you're really ahead, so you can get to mega faster and just burst down enemies so quickly. Also, whenever your base is getting destroyed, like your inhibs are getting taken, I think Runons is a really good item, especially if your team does not have wave clear, so you can clear the waves more properly. It can sometimes save games. I think Rageblade is only really good combined with Runons and Titanic, and if you combine these three items together, then you will just create it's like a old Zeri, a modern day Vayne kind of thing. It's obviously not as good on Gnar, but it can still lead to very cool effects. But I recommend only building it when you're extremely ahead. And Phantom Dancer is just an amazing item when you're ahead, but I still recommend sticking to the other options, of course, rather than building this. Same with Mortal Reminder, just feels good when ahead. Lastly, these are preference choices. I don't like these, but other players have success. I have all the players linked down below in the description. Some players build Gourd Drinker, mainly Korean Gnar players. I don't really like it. Stridebreaker is okay, I guess. Maybe into range matchups, but I just prefer Trinity. Immortal Shield Bow used to be a thing, but it got nerfed a lot. AP Gnar used to be a thing, but I don't really like Everfrost anymore. Mid lane, of course. Being in the ice builds Frozen Heart, or at least used to. I don't really like it though, I just prefer Randuin's. By the way, these last few items are Thing and the ice items. Collector is good when you're ahead, just not for me. Edge of Night is a good utility item. And lastly, Umbral Glaive. You think of this as a supportive item, but it's actually pretty good when ahead. Again, it's just not for me. Okay, that wraps up the items. Let's go to runes. So these are the runes that I usually like to go on Gnar. Pretty much every game, this is what you'll go. Fleet Footwork, Triumph, Legend Alacrity, Last Stand, Second Wind, and Unflinching. These are just the best standard runes for Gnar. The only thing I would change in certain games on the Fleet Footwork page is maybe go Legend Tenacity if you need more tenacity. Other than that, this page should always look like this. Now resolves where things could get tricky. Second Wind is good into most standard matchups, especially if you get poked a lot. Bone Plating is good into champs that like to all-in you. I like to think of champs like Aatrox, Jax, And conditioning is good when you feel like you have an easy matchup and you can just scale. Maybe against a champ like Singed, this is good. I sometimes like to take Demolish if I think I'm going to split push and I can apply pressure to the map. Overgrowth is a good scaling rune if there's no CC on the enemy team and you don't need unflinching. And of course, unflinching is good because if the enemy team has CC, this is just an amazing rune to have. Always go attack speed, damage, and then either go armor if you need armor or magic resist if you need magic resist. Now we will go to situational runes. Since it's here, I'll go to Conqueror. I don't really like Conqueror anymore, but Thing in the Ice I believe still goes it. So if you have a preference over Conqueror, I think it's okay. I don't really like lethal tempo, and press to the attack isn't really as good as before, but it's okay if you want to go it. Now the only time I usually go Hella Blades is against Irelia. I don't really like it as much as before, but I think Hella Blades is probably the best rune against Irelia. It's really hard to play that matchup, so I understand if you just want to take Fleet into it. I think Phase Rush is really good on Gnar against champs like Nasus, Trundle, Darius. It just allows you to kite more properly, and I believe it's really essential against those champions. Early mid game it's hard if you don't have this rune. Grass definitely isn't as good as before, but I still like it. I like it combined with domination or precision. But if you have a free lane, again, I think a good example is Singed. But in most cases, Fleet Footwork is just better. And I don't really like any of the inspiration rune trees. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the runes that I like. So now I'm just going to quickly go over the abilities. In Mini Gnar, your Q is just a boomerang. You throw it, and if you catch it, it reduces its cooldown. As soon as it hits an object, it'll stop going. And the cool trick with it is that if you throw it and then walk away from its path, it can go backwards. You can sometimes get cool kills if your enemy's backing and they're not paying attention. Gnar's mini W is hyper. If you just auto 3 times, it'll give you movement speed and more damage. Your hyper is also procced with Q and E bounce. Your E is hop. It gives you attack speed whenever you jump. You don't have to jump on an enemy to get the attack speed, and it also slows the enemy you bounce off of. And then R and Mini, it just increases your hyper's movement speed. That's it for Mini. Since Gnar has Rage, he can transform. Gnar's Q and Mega is just a boulder similar to Olaf's Q. You throw it and you can pick it up and then throw it again. It also slows. Gnar's Mega W, Wallop. Use it and it stuns your enemies. This is one of the abilities you can animation cancel. We'll get into that soon. Gnar's Mega E is Crunch. Similar to Hop, you can use it to get a double bounce when transforming, but it does not double bounce whenever you're just using it regular in Mega Gnar like this. Lastly, Gnar's R, the best ability by far, Gnar's Kit. It slams all the enemies across the wall, and if you hit them on the wall, it stuns. Of course, you don't have to use it on the wall, but it does more damage and it stuns if you do so. So what you saw me do there are animation cancels. So that's what's gonna lead us into combos. In Mini Gnar, combos are really simple. Don't try to think too deep into it. Really, the only Mini Gnar combo is like auto attack EQ. I did a very poor example there, but basically that's it. If you just do all these 3, you can get a proc instantly. And yeah, there's not really another Mini Gnar combo that you can really do. For Mega Gnar, it's also very simple. When transforming, you can go in, get an animation cancel R, and then you can auto or W right after. Auto, and then Q, and then auto. Don't try to stress too much about the combos. Just go in the practice tool and just practice weaving in autos after every ability, and you should be good to go. But I'll just show another simple Mega Gnar combo without R. So if you're from a distance, you can throw Q, E, auto, W, auto, Q, auto. And if you can have R, you can just R, auto, etc. You can animation cancel with your W and R. This basically just leads to surprise engages, which can catch your enemy off guard. And yeah, that's basically it for the combos. I'm not gonna dive too deep into macro. Early game, since TP isn't really that prevalent anymore, you just use it to TP usually to your tower for the first 14 minutes. It's pretty hard to get a TP play across the map now. So early game, your main focus is just trying to win lane and then pay attention and try to help your jungler whenever they need help. You might have to fight skirmishes around Rift Herald early, around Scuttle Crab early. It can lead on to 3v3 fights, even 4v4 if support comes up. So basically just be sure to look at your map a lot. Just glance at your map every few seconds. I like to look at it every other second. I just look at my screen and look straight at my map. So that's basically it for early game. Some wards I like to do. If I'm on blue side, I like a good defensive pink ward is right here, I believe, in your jungle. But placing wards right here, and of course right here is also fine to try to spot enemy jungler. If you want to put aggressive vision, maybe when you're ahead, I think anywhere in the jungle is good. Right in that bush is a good spot. Of course this bush is a good spot. If you can place normal wards in any of the camps, it's okay. A ward right here is okay where I'm standing. Wards in this bush is okay. It's just good for getting vision aggressively when you're trying to get Rift Herald, Baron, etc. And of course, opposite applies to red side, so a good defensive ward would be here, aggressive ward would be right here, and so on and so on. So for side laning, basically in the mid game, you may want to swap lanes, and you just go bot and match the top laner. Sometimes go mid. It's different every game, it's hard to explain, but usually you want to be on the opposite side of the map where the major objective's up. So for example, if Baron's up, you usually want to be in bot side. If Baron's not up or is taken, you may want to go top side and put pressure. And if you don't have TP, just be aware, especially if the objective's up, try to be near there. Always try to have vision when you're split pushing. And yeah, I can't really say much more. Every single game is unique, so you're just gonna have to learn. I suggest watching pro Gnar players, VODs in games to see what they do in specific matchups or games or situations. Like I said, I don't want to get too deep into macro, so that's pretty much it. So I want to talk about some final tips before the video ends. Something you may not know about Gnar is that his range changes pretty much every single time he levels up. As you can see, it's pretty small here, but whenever I level up, it increases. Yeah, you just see, and then we just go all the way to level 18. Look how much more range you have. So one tip I have to manage your range in between team fights or any trade at all in general, just be sure to hold C or just tap on C every now and then so you can see your range. It also helps you with your APM, which is called actions per minute, just so you can stay warmed up before major team fights or trades. And yeah, I just wanted to show this little C trick because it could really help you kite and properly do damage that you need in team fights. A lot of people ask me this, so yeah, here it is. Another thing I want to talk about before the video ends is that you can use your E in Mini Gnar, even in Mega, to hop through walls like this. I just thought it'd be a useful thing to show off because you can escape pretty big ganks. You can't E over this wall, but if you're right here, you can E. Oh, I failed. There we go. So it could really help you avoid ganks if you don't feel like using flash. This is a good wall to hop to avoid ganks. Another common hop is over here to get to this pit more quickly. Just another cool trick that you can use with your E in Mini Gnar or even in Mega Gnar. Alright, so that's pretty much it for the guide. I hope I got all the essential things for the end of the year Gnar guide. It's pretty similar to my last Gnar guide, but yeah, I did not want to make this Gnar guide too informative because I am going to be making a very big updated Gnar guide in the beginning of season 13, but I did promise I would get this out for you guys, so here you go. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I love you guys forever and always. Good luck on your end of season climb, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye!